Let's do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indie Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show on a beautiful, beautiful Monday morning. And it's only beautiful because the Indianapolis Colts won yesterday. I still can't believe it. 33-8. Just a dominant win from start to finish. Yes, I'm a Dolphins fan. I had someone ask in the comments, which was worse, the root canal. Ross asking what was worse, the root canal or the game. Definitely the root canal. My mouth still hurts. It's not fun. But, you know, it's really weird because, like, I am a Dolphins fan, but, like, obviously, like, I want the Colts to win because it just makes the show significantly more fun. And it's going to be fun today because there's just so many good things to talk about with the Indianapolis Colts. And they looked nothing short of great yesterday. I am honestly very surprised by what we saw from a Colts team that I thought and still do think was going to be pretty bad this year. But maybe they're not going to be bad. Maybe they're just going to be below average. We're certainly going to find out this upcoming Sunday when they host the Denver Broncos. Just a slight step up in competition from the Dolphins. But we're not talking about that yet because the Colts were awesome yesterday. Here is Colts head coach Shane Steichen talking about just a very complete win from his team.
I'll start off just a great team win. Everybody in that locker room, every coach, every player, the preparation that goes into it to play the way we did, complimentary football on both sides of it for 4 quarters was awesome. I thought Lou did a hell of a job calling the game on defense, putting those guys in position. I thought Jim Bob did a great job with the offense all week. Mason with the special teams, the takeaways, and then converting 17 points off that. That's playing complimentary football. And I'm excited for the city, this organization, you know, to get this first win at home, you know, with Mr. Irsay going to the Ring of Honor. It was only fitting to get that done today.
Coach Shane Steichen right there talking about just the very complete win from the Indianapolis Colts yesterday. That is the most complete game we have seen the Colts play since Shane Steichen was hired. The most complete and the best. They have not looked better than they did on Sunday. You could argue their Week 15 victory over the Steelers in 2023 when they won 30-13 was better than what we saw yesterday. I would disagree because Mitch Trubisky was the starting quarterback in that game. Whereas yesterday, they did what they did against Tua Tagovailoa, a guy who, you know, isn't like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, but is also certainly better than Mitch Trubisky. What they did to a Dolphins team that talked a lot in the offseason about being tough and being more physical and all those things was very impressive because the Colts looked tougher, they looked more physical, and they just looked more buttoned up than the Dolphins did. And that's not really a surprise when you consider that Mike McDaniel is their head coach. The Colts offense scored on all 7 of their possessions yesterday. According to ESPN stats and information, they were the first team since 1977 to accomplish this. The offense just absolutely humming. They did pretty much whatever they wanted to all day long. I've got a lot of stuff today on Daniel Jones. And I'm sure that, you know, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know my feelings on Daniel Jones. I don't think he's a good quarterback. And I'm sure some people are like, is Jonathan going to walk back all those comments about Daniel Jones not being good? The answer is absolutely not. Daniel Jones is at a point in his career where he's been so bad that when he's good, I don't think it's him. I think it's just the team that he played against. With that being said, yesterday, Daniel Jones played one of the 10 best games of his career. You know, he's got a couple 4 touchdown pass games in there from his career. He's got, you know, a game against the Commanders where he threw 4 touchdown passes and he threw for 400 yards and really tore it up. So he wasn't that level of awesome, but he was still really good. Like, your quarterback has to be good if you're going to score on all 7 of your offensive possessions. Here's Daniel Jones talking about going 7 for 7 yesterday in terms of getting points on every possession.
I thought we were able to, we had a lot, efficient in the pass game, some big plays here and there, and then we ran the ball at a really high level. I think that was huge. A number of times we got great field position thanks to turnovers from our defense. The guys up front played awesome the whole time, protecting, and then in the run game, creating space for our backs to run. So I think a lot of things when you're able to do that, it's a lot of things, and I think it starts up front.
Colts starting quarterback Daniel Jones yesterday after the game talking about scoring on all 7 of the Colts possessions right there. Very interesting. I noticed 2 things over the weekend. 2 things. First thing I noticed on Saturday, Mississippi State beat Arizona State, your defending Pac-12 champion, Big 12 champions, and a team projected to make the playoffs. Oklahoma beat Michigan, and I didn't see any tweets about the SEC being overrated, and I didn't see any tweets about how great the Big Ten is or anything like that. Very, very interesting from the SEC haters out there. I also realized I didn't see any Anthony Richardson tweets. Didn't see any because Daniel Jones went out there and played dang near a perfect game. And I think that Shane Steichen had a lot to do with that. I have been on the island with, maybe 4 other people throughout the offseason saying that Shane Steichen is a good head coach. Because to go 500 through 2 years with Gardner Minshew, Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, and at best the 28th ranked defense in the NFL, when that's what you're coaching and you find a way to go 500, then I'm just going to believe that you were a good head coach in some capacity. And I thought that he showed that yesterday. Okay? Colts pass catchers, wide open all day. Daniel Jones didn't have to make a tough throw once. It's just, that guy's wide open on a curl route. Michael Pittman Jr. is just wide open, streaking down the sideline. Let me just make a nice little easy pass for a 27-yard passing touchdown. Very impressed by Shane Steichen and the way that he called the game for the Colts yesterday. I think that when Shane Steichen sits down in the offseason and he schemes up the offense, and if you were to ask him, hey, Shane, what do you want the offense to look like? I think from now on, he's just going to point to Sunday. That's what the Colts offense is supposed to look like under Shane Steichen, right? He talks about throwing to get ahead and then running the ball across the finish line. They did that. Their first 5 plays, all pass plays. The threat of Jonathan Taylor allows the Colts to run play action. And when Shane Steichen created this offense, I think that is what he envisioned. Okay? The threat of play action at all times. They pushed the ball down the field a couple times to Alec Pierce. He wasn't able to come up with the receptions. They had Josh Downs underneath a couple times. They found Michael Pittman Jr. They found Tyler Warren in the middle of the Dolphins defense pretty consistently. He had a really big day, got a lot of stuff on him as well, but 7 receptions for 76 yards. Pretty impressive debut right there for Tyler Warren, the 14th overall pick for the Colts. I didn't think that they I didn't think that they ran the ball very well. When you look at the numbers, I thought that to start the game, they did. You heard Daniel Jones in that clip talking about how they scored, on all 7 of their possessions and how it started with the run game. With Jonathan Taylor in early, when the Colts had the option to run or pass, I thought that they ran the ball well. Later in the game, when the Dolphins knew that the Colts were going to run the football, they did not run it very well. Part of that is because Jonathan Taylor wasn't in the game at that point because the Colts were up, 33-8. Jonathan Taylor didn't need to be in the game. I'm sure if you have Jonathan Taylor in your fantasy league, you wish that he had been in. But for the Colts, he didn't need to play. He had 18 of the Colts' 40 rushing attempts. That was a good thing. Dan has pointed this out on his show, and he'll be on today from noon to 3. Dan pointed this out on his show about how the Colts, kind of look to save Jonathan Taylor early in the season. That way he's healthy later in the season. When the games look like they did yesterday, please do that. Please. When you're up big, pull him out, put the rookie in there, say, hey, DJ, you're going to take the carries the rest of the game. Just don't fumble the football, please. And thankfully, DJ Giddens did that. Jonathan Taylor, he had 18 carries on the day. He also had how many receptions did he have? Because he was really good after the catch. 3 receptions for 27 yards on top of it. So 21 touches in a game where he basically didn't play in the fourth quarter. I think that is a really good sign for the Colts going forward, right? Like he's going to be heavily involved in the offense, whether that's Daniel Jones hitting him out in the flat to check it down, or that's them just turning around and saying, hey, Jonathan, you're our best player. Words I never heard growing up. And we're just going to give you the ball. That way you can make it happen for us. So very good mix of Jonathan Taylor throughout the first 3 quarters was big. I thought that the run game fell off in the fourth because Jonathan Taylor didn't run the football. And the Colts were also up so much that the Dolphins were like, yeah, you're not going to throw. So that obviously played a role in it as well. But with that being said, in the future, when the Colts are up by 1 possession with 3 minutes left, and the opposition knows that they're going to run the football, they have to find a way to be a little bit more successful than what they were yesterday with the Dolphins team that knew that they were going to run it. Maybe the issue was just it was Giddens and not Taylor, and maybe that'll fix it, but that is something that the Colts are going to have to improve at as the year goes on. I thought that the only thing that the Colts didn't do well yesterday, and I'm going to elaborate on this a little bit more later, I thought that the only thing that the Colts didn't do well yesterday was score touchdowns in the red zone. That has to be fixed. They got in the red zone 5 times. They only scored 2 touchdowns. That's not good. For my math majors out there, that's only a 40% touchdown rate in the red zone. When you're playing the Dolphins, who are not supposed to be very good this year, you can get away with that because they're going to turn the ball over 3 times. But next week, when you're playing the Broncos, you have to score touchdowns. Like that can cost you a game. I don't know how much you watched of Broncos and Titans on Sunday yesterday, but if the Titans just score touchdowns in the red zone as opposed to kick 4 field goals, then they beat the Broncos on the road to open the season. Okay, the best teams in the NFL do a few things. They convert third downs, which the Colts did a very good job of yesterday. They get off the field on third down when they're on defense, which the Colts did a very good job of yesterday. They score touchdowns when they're in the red zone, a place where the Colts really struggled. And when they allow their opponent in the red zone, they hold them to field goals instead of giving up touchdowns. We don't really know about that because the Dolphins weren't in the red zone enough for us to find out about that aspect of the Colts defense. But in order for the Colts to kind of reach a point where I'm like, yes, this is a playoff team, because I'm still not there yet. 1 win isn't going to change my mind. Then like the red zone offense has to be better. Defensively, there is so much to like. There is so much to like about the Colts defense after that game. So much to like about Anarumo and everything that he's going to bring to the table all year for the Indianapolis Colts. The biggest thing, though, the thing that brought a smile to my face more than anything else, it wasn't the blitzes. It wasn't Leatu Latu dropping back in coverage and intercepting a pass. It wasn't any of that. They tackled well. The Colts did such a good job of tackling yesterday. There were very few missed tackles yesterday. Like Nick Cross he didn't miss any tackles. Zaire Franklin didn't miss tackles yesterday. And it's not like the Colts were playing against bad skill players. Like it's Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane. Not easy dudes to bring down. And the Colts did an excellent job of tackling in the open field. Okay, watching the game, it was just fun. That was the best part of my Sunday. Like just getting to sit down on the couch and just have fun watching the Colts play. Because like watching football is always supposed to be fun, But if you've watched the Colts the last 2 years, then there have been limited amounts of fun in that. Okay, there's been a lot of frustration, quarterbacks not making throws that they should make, defenses, the defense missing tackles, the defense letting guys just run wild in the secondary. Yesterday was just fun. And even though I predicted the Colts to be bad, I hope I'm wrong. I hope every game looks like that, where the Colts just do things that you expect for NFL teams to do. Their quarterback hit open receivers. Those open receivers caught the football. Their defenders made tackles on the first try. Like they just looked like an NFL team. Once again, it was the most complete game we've seen from the Colts in the time that Shane Steichen has been the head coach. Hopefully that continues. And I know everyone's jacked up on the Daniel Jones stuff right now. He was obviously good. He was not the best part of the Colts yesterday. He was not. I will tell you the most impressive and the best part of the Colts day yesterday in 4 minutes.
highlights in today's sports world. It's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And of course, 14:30 a.m. if you're in the Indianapolis area. Big win for the Colts yesterday. If you bet them over 7.5 wins, you needed that. You needed that yesterday. And you probably feel a little bit better about that bet after the way that they just dominated that game against the Dolphins from start to finish. And everyone is going to want to talk about Daniel Jones and how great Daniel Jones was. 22 of 29, 272 passing yards, 3 total touchdowns, 1 through the air, 2 on the ground. But the Colts defense was the most impressive part of the game yesterday. Here is Colts head coach Shane Steichen talking about this Colts defense that was just nasty, showing the pressures and then pulling out and then showing no pressure and then blitzing. It was just so much fun to watch. Here's the Colts head coach talking about Anarumo and his defense.
Wire is what it was. He was putting those guys in position, multiple looks, hitting them at the right time. The pass rush was getting home. It was only fitting signing Cam Bynum, and he gets the first pick. And to do a celebration, and Latu gets a pick in there. I mean, it was awesome. I can't wait to watch the tape, but defense played awesome.
Defense played awesome, according to Colts head coach Shane Steichen right there. And he's right, man. Like, the defense was just so good. All of the things that you just expect to see an NFL defense do, they did. The Colts blitzed. They disguised coverage. They mixed it up. They played zone. They played man. They brought blitzers up and then pulled them out. They dropped edge rushers into coverage. Anarumo just did an excellent job reminding Colts fans what a real NFL defense looks like. And to the Colts' credit, the players, they executed it. They executed it because when you get exotic like that, there's a bit of a risk. You know, like dropping Latu into coverage consistently is probably not a great idea. But to do it occasionally it's a good idea, especially when it results in a turnover. And this was the biggest thing with the Colts. The 3 turnovers forced were why the Colts won. Let's just start with that. If you force 3 turnovers, I could have been playing quarterback, and the Colts probably would have won, okay? Like, when you force that many turnovers. And I talk about it all the time. I talked about it before the season started. I'm taking the Jags over 7.5 because the turnover luck was not in their favor last year. This year it should be. They won, by the way, yesterday. Anyway, and so for the Colts, like, being able to force those 3 turnovers were big. And I oftentimes say that turnovers are a luck stat. And that's not really what it was yesterday. They were, like, legitimately forced. The first turnover by the Dolphins was a luck thing. Tua had a clean pocket. Tyreek Hill is open. He just sailed it, right? And he sails the throw. Cam Bynum, right place, right time. He picks it off, and he does a weird back dance thing in the end zone after the interception. Okay, I would call that a Gus Bradley defense turnover. Right place, right time, pretty lucky, pretty fortunate, right? Second turnover was the Tua fumble. Why did Tua fumble the football? Because they blitzed Kenny Moore from the nickel spot to his blind side. Tua doesn't see it, pulls in Anthony Richardson, doesn't pick up the blitz. Kenny Moore, free rusher, sacks him, swipes down. When he does, football comes loose. Colts jump on it. Boom. That is a turnover forced because of Anarumo and the scheme and his willingness to actually blitz and do things that are not normal, at least not normal to Colts fans. Because believe it or not, a nickel blitz is not the most exotic thing in the world. The third turnover happens because they drop Leatu Latu into pass coverage, which is just, I love so much that they did that. The fact that they're like, you know what we're going to do? Forget linebackers covering. Our linebackers can't cover. Leatu Latu can, though, apparently. Let's drop him after he's lined up as one of the edge rushers for the Colts. And, he Tua threw it right to him. Didn't see him. To be fair, I don't think a lot of quarterbacks would have seen him. 2 of the 3 turnovers that the Colts forced happened because Lou Anarumo dialed it up. Something Gus Bradley never did. Okay? That happened because Lou Anarumo threw in a wrinkle. Something Gus Bradley very rarely did. And we saw yesterday why Gus Bradley needed to go. Okay? Vanilla, cover 3, matching zone. Let's do it. Lou Anarumo brought out a little more than just vanilla. Just did all sorts of stuff, and it was good. It was fun. When you mix it up, your chances of forcing turnovers should go up. They forced 3 yesterday. It's why the Colts won. Here is Colts head coach Shane Steichen talking about the 3 turnovers that this Colts defense forced.
It was huge. I think getting those takeaways by our defense was big. And then, converting there, obviously we had some, I think we had to settle for some field goals there. But again, I thought Spence did a great job, kicking the field goals, the kickoff coverage team. We talked about that. Well, that was one of the keys going into this game was covering kicks. And I thought our guys really good job of that all game. Like I said, it was just a great team win. The atmosphere in there with the fans was electric. It was just awesome.
Shane Steichen right there talking about the 3 turnovers and how that kind of set the tone for everything else for the Colts to fall in place after that. Special teams, really good. Schrader hits, all 4 of his kicks. The kickoff coverage was pretty good. I think it was the first one where the Dolphins returner got a little loose. But aside from that, those 3 turnovers, they just set everything up. That's 3 extra possessions. They had good field position on all 3 of them. And obviously 3 turnovers do result in 3 stops. And the Colts were able to jump out to that 17-0 lead. And at that point, it's the Dolphins now have to throw the football. They have to just drop back and throw it, which, is obviously normal for NFL teams. But you know what the Dolphins would like to do occasionally? Play action pass. You know what else they'd like to do? Run the football and do all of those other different things. They threw the football 31 times. They only handed it off 12 times. The Colts were just able to jump on them so quickly because of those 3 first-half turnovers. And then the Colts offense, to their credit, were able to turn those turnovers into points, even if 2 of them did result in field goals. The biggest thing, though, with the defense, and I hope that this continues, man. They tackled so well. They tackled at what felt like an elite level. There weren't very many broken tackles. When the Colts got their hands on a guy, the play was over. It was over. So the calls from Lou Anarumo were very impressive. The tackling from the Colts was as good as we've seen in the last 2 years. And when you mix those things, good tackling and turnovers, you're going to hold teams to 8 points. Okay? When you don't tackle well, the Bills last night, you're going to give up 40. Then again, I get it. It's a little different, tackle at A-Chain and Hill and Waddle than it is tackling a guy like, what's his name? Derrick Henry. So big game from them. 3 sacks, 3 turnovers. Nick Cross leading the way in tackles for the Colts. Once again, Charvarius Ward, 6 tackles as well. I thought Joe Bacci was good on top of it. Just a lot to like from this Colts defense. They looked like they were having a good time, and they should have a good time with the way that they played. There's a guy who's not going to be talked about very much today who needs to be. Very surprised yesterday I was by how well Samson Ebukam played. He came off the edge time and time again and did an excellent job of generating pressure on Tua. The Colts had 6 quarterback hits yesterday. Samson Ebukam had 3 of them. The Colts had 3 sacks yesterday. Samson Ebukam had 1 of them. He was the only defensive lineman to log a sack. The other 2 were Nick Cross and Kenny Moore coming in off of blitzes. The Colts had 4 tackles for loss yesterday. Samson Ebukam had 1 of them. He was so good, and that is such an important thing for the Colts because I've talked about this all offseason. The lack of depth, very concerning behind the starting Colts defensive line. Okay, you're relying on guys like Eric Johnson and Adetomiwa Adebawore and Tyquan Lewis, who I thought played well yesterday. He's coming off the elbow surgery, and he's 30, and same thing with Ebukam, right? He's coming off of this Achilles tear, and he's 30, and he was going to have to be good this year in order for the Colts to have a chance. He got off to a really good start. With that being said, Colts offensive line, not very good, but the Colts just got off to a great start as it is. Now, Daniel Jones. Didn't see any tweets yesterday about Anthony Richardson, and it's because Daniel Jones was as good as he was. He did everything that he was supposed to do. He had open receivers. He didn't turn the ball over. He had a couple scrambles to keep the Colts on schedule. I didn't think he was great. I just thought he did what starting quarterbacks should do. I thought Shane Steichen did a good job of making the game easy for him. Okay, I thought that Tyler Warren did a good job of just making the game easy for him. I thought that this Colts offensive line was so good. So good. Like that Dolphins defensive front is supposed to be better than what it was between, Jalen Phillips and Zach Sealer and Bradley Chubb, who the Dolphins paid a whole bunch of money to come over from Denver. And the Colts offensive line was like, that's fine. We're just going to stonewall you consistently. Like Daniel Jones had all day to throw the football. And so between that and the great play calling from Shane Steichen and the Colts receivers just making basic plays, you got a great game from Daniel Jones because of all of those things. And that's going to have to continue throughout the season because I'm just not convinced that Daniel Jones is a guy who can just put the team on his back and go be awesome. Everything else has to work well too. Jonathan Taylor has to average 4 yards a carry like he did yesterday. The offensive line has to give him an ample amount of time to throw the football and to survey the field, right? And all of the receivers for the Colts have to make plays before and after the catch like they did yesterday. So very impressive day from Daniel Jones. I'm going to elaborate on it a whole lot more in 4 minutes.
Tickets at noon. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Now, this is Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. So Colts, big win yesterday. Daniel Jones comes out, has a day. Giants fans are mad because, Russell Wilson's terrible and Daniel Jones is now a beast. Actually, I don't really know about that, but I thought that he just did everything that was asked of him. Every receiver that was open, he hit. Didn't force anything that wasn't there. He made the game look easy, and that's a credit to him. When Shane Steichen named Daniel Jones the starter, I said that Shane Steichen was betting on himself more than he was betting on Daniel Jones. And I think that we saw why I said that yesterday. The Colts receivers were consistently open. That is a play calling thing. Like Michael Pittman Jr. running wide open down the sideline, that's a play call thing. The ability to get Tyler Warren the football 3 times on that first possession, it's a play calling thing. Okay, I thought that he called a great game yesterday. There weren't any trick plays. He just sat back and was like, I have a quarterback who can make every throw that I need him to make. So let's just make it easy for him to get the ball to the Colts' best players. And that's what he did. And to Daniel Jones' credit, another reason why he got the job and Anthony Richardson didn't, when it didn't work, when Shane Steichen called a play that didn't result in a guy running wide open, Daniel Jones found Jonathan Taylor. And Jonathan Taylor is very hard to tackle in open space. And he made some nice plays after the catch. None of that happens, though, without Daniel Jones doing the thing that got him the job. None of it happens without Daniel Jones doing the thing that, good old Anthony Richardson can't do. Listen to this exchange between one of the Colts reporters, I can't really tell whose voice it is, and Shane Steichen.
It looked like Daniel changed that play.
He just changed the protection. He checked the protection on it. Yep. Yeah, he made a few of those all game. There's a lot of that stuff that goes on. We had another one on 4th down where he checked it and they brought 0 and he threw it to down. So he makes a lot of plays like that for us.
He checked the protection. Oh, that's so big. All the things that you and I can't see, Daniel Jones did a very good job of yesterday. And that is all that Shane Steichen wants. Hit the open receiver, give the offense a chance to be successful by getting them into the right play, by getting them into the right protection. And Daniel Jones did that all game. He just did the things that you and I expect for starting caliber NFL quarterbacks to do. Okay, he had one bad throw yesterday. One. Snaps the football. It was first or second drive. They're trying to set up a screen to Michael Pittman Jr. Daniel Jones, receives the snap, throws it out there, and he just sails it. Bad throw. Okay, didn't seem like Daniel Jones got the laces. And as soon as that throw happened, I went straight to X, expecting to see tweets about it. Didn't, surprisingly. And so that happened. And after that, though, he settled in and he made every throw that he was supposed to make, right? Made every throw he was supposed to make, made all the protection switches that he was supposed to make. And he also kept them on schedule. Okay? He didn't make any crazy plays because he didn't have to. Like there was never a 3rd and 9 Daniel Jones go get it done for us. Like that situation did not arise once in that game against the Dolphins yesterday. Okay? Like he just made the easy things look easy, which is the thing that we've been wanting here in Indy for quite some time. Here is Colts head coach Shane Steichen on Daniel Jones's day as a whole?
I mean, it was huge. Like I said, we want to stay on schedule and complete balls. I don't remember what was the stats. 22 of 29 for 272 and a touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, he played good ball. We got to continue that every week. It's 1 week at a time. But that's the preparation he puts in. He was ready to roll, and guys went out there and made plays for him.
Shane Steichen right there talking about Daniel Jones's day as a whole, running through the numbers, 22 of 29, 272 yards, 3 total touchdowns, 2 rushing, one passing, no turnovers, just kept the Colts on schedule. And he consistently gave them a chance to be successful. Anthony Richardson had 2 years to prove that he could do that. And he didn't. And that's why he lost the job. Because Daniel Jones is just going to do the things that starting quarterbacks in the NFL do. And all the Colts fans are going to go crazy for it. Okay, I had people in my mentions afterwards, telling me that they told me about Daniel Jones. In my defense, I did say that he would be the Colts starter before the season started. I also told you that this was going to happen. The Colts have had 2 quarterbacks the last 2 years who couldn't consistently do the things that starting NFL quarterbacks should be able to do. Okay, and that's make the easy throws, get the Colts into the right play, and all those things. Now they actually might have that. And Colts fans are going to go crazy for it. Not because Daniel Jones is some fantastic starting quarterback. No, they're going to go crazy for it just because you haven't seen it for the last 2 years. Now, here's the part where I make Colts fans and the very, very small Daniel Jones army upset. I need to see more than just that to change my opinion about this Colts season and who Daniel Jones is as a starting quarterback. Okay? Like, he had 1 good game against the Dolphins secondary with very little talent. The Dolphins' best cornerback is Storm Duck. Storm Duck, who was an undrafted free agent last year. Their second best corner is a former 4th-round pick who started for the Raiders last year. For those who don't know, Raiders secondary last year, not very good. And they're like, all right, we don't need Jack anymore. That's his name. And, he's the Dolphins' second best corner. And then their nickelback was a 6th-round pick from this year. Okay? Like, they didn't just go and hang 33 on the 85 Bears. Okay? I need to see a little bit more before I change my mind on Daniel Jones and, how the rest of the Colts season is going to go. At best, Daniel Jones is a low-level starting quarterback. Okay? And he did all the things that low-level starting quarterbacks do yesterday. Got the Colts into the right play, made all the easy throws, didn't make any bad decisions. That's it. That's all that he did. Okay? He's got to be consistent like this for a month for me to change my mind. Like, I need a month of yesterdays from Daniel Jones before I'm like, okay, maybe he's figured it out. Maybe we're getting a Sam Darnold-like resurrection from Daniel Jones here in Indy. Okay? So I need a month's worth of consistency before I'm, like, all right, let's go Daniel Jones. Or I need to see him do a little more than what he did yesterday. Because against the bad teams, what Daniel Jones did yesterday is going to be more than enough. Okay, like when the Colts go out and they play the Titans twice, if he plays like he did yesterday, they'll be fine. Okay, when they play, there's not very many other bad teams on their schedule. So, anyway, the bad teams, if he does what he did yesterday, the bare minimum, hit open receivers, then the Colts will be fine. But against the good teams, he's got to do a little bit more. Okay, I want to see Daniel Jones have a game where he just figures it out before I crown him and this Colts team. Yesterday, the Buccaneers beat the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, and Baker Mayfield just had this gutsy performance. His numbers were nowhere near as pretty as Daniel Jones's. Daniel Jones, 22 of 29, 3 total touchdowns, just efficient, 272 yards. Baker Mayfield's numbers did not look like that. He was 17 of 32 for 167 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. Look, it looks like an Anthony Richardson passing day, just barely over 50%. But yesterday, the Buccaneers beat the Falcons because of Baker and his ability to just figure it out. Oh, he was also the Bucs' leading rusher with 5 carries for only 39 yards. The Buccaneers went into that game against the Falcons very banged up. No Tristan Wirfs, the Bucs' best offensive lineman, one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL. Chris Godwin didn't play. And Baker Mayfield, despite no run game, his second best receiver not playing, and his best offensive lineman out, Baker Mayfield still found a way to win that game. And that is what quarterbacking, that is what franchise quarterbacks in the NFL do. It's the guys who can figure it out when things aren't perfect. It's the ability to rally when everything isn't lined up. Everything was lined up for Daniel Jones yesterday. Receivers were open. The offensive line gave him time. They ran the football well. Everything was perfect. And when things are perfect around just about any starting quarterback in the NFL, they're going to have a good game. That's the reality of it. Yesterday was a perfect situation for Daniel Jones. A lot of quarterbacks would have looked good. The opposing secondary was bad. The offensive line gave him time. The defense forced 3 turnovers and gave him a short field. His receivers didn't drop any passes. It was perfect. It was. Okay? That, like, what we saw from Daniel Jones yesterday, like that's not quarterbacking in the NFL. Okay, quarterbacking in the NFL is what we saw from Josh Allen last night. Down by, 15 with 3 minutes and 59 seconds left to go, and then finding out a way to win or figuring out a way to win. Quarterbacking is what we saw from Baker Mayfield yesterday. Hey, my second best receiver's out, my best offensive tackle's out, and we can't run the football. The franchise quarterbacks in the NFL win those games, not the one that we saw from Daniel Jones yesterday. So what is Daniel Jones going to look like when things around him aren't perfect? Once we get the answer to that question, I'll either change my mind or I'll have the opportunity to explain to you why I was right all along. And that opportunity may be coming up this Sunday at 4:05 when the Colts play a very nasty defense. Very nasty defense that the, Denver Broncos are going to be bringing up here to Indianapolis. Now, good news. I do think that Lou Anarumo and his scheme is going to give Bo Nix some issues because he's a young quarterback. Isn't that such a nice thing to say? Such a nice thing to say. Like, if you were ever, which you weren't, but that, like, Patriots fans, when Bill Belichick was the head coach, you knew that when a young quarterback came to town, you were probably going to win because he was just going to throw a bunch of really tough stuff at them. I feel the exact same way about Lou Anarumo, which makes life easier for everybody else. I read a stat this morning. Last year, Tua led the NFL in time to throw. So from the time that he snapped the football to the time that he released it, it was under 2.5 seconds. Under 2.5 seconds. Like that led the NFL last year. Yesterday, his average time to throw was like 2.67 seconds. And that's a Lou Anarumo throwing different looks at you kind of thing. And I'm expecting the same thing kind of from Bo Nix in this game against the Colts this upcoming Sunday. And so I think it's going to be a tough, grinded out kind of game with two defenses that make it tough on the team's opposing quarterback. And the game's going to come down to one thing. Does Bo Nix make a play on 3rd and 8 that Daniel Jones doesn't? Or does Daniel Jones make a play on 3rd and 8 that gets the Colts a field goal that Bo Nix doesn't? That is what the game is going to come down to. So I think we're going to have a much better grasp of Daniel Jones and this Colts offense next week when they play a defense that is projected to be one of the 10 best in the NFL, as opposed to a Dolphins defense that lacks talent and definitely lacks talent on the back end of their secondary. So Daniel Jones, great week one. Got to see a lot more, though, before I change my mind in terms of what kind of quarterback Daniel Jones is. But like I said, great start to the season. I don't think that we could have asked for anything more from this Colts team. And I hope that they keep rolling. I hope that I continue to be wrong. The line's probably out for the game against the Broncos. If I bet it, I'm probably going to bet the Broncos because I feel like the Broncos are going to be better than the Colts are this season. The Colts are probably underdogs if I had to guess. And I hit the wrong button because of this computer. Anyway, so next week, the game is at 4:05 here in Indy, and the Colts are 3.5-point underdogs, as they should be. So we're going to find out a lot more about this Colts team next week. Can't wait, but great start to the season. We talk about the Colts needing juice and fans needing some hope. There's juice now because they had the most dominant performance of any team in the NFL week one. And I think there's a little bit of hope because we saw Daniel Jones do a bunch of things that we just hadn't seen Anthony Richardson do. And they're going to have an opportunity on Sunday to further prove that. I'm not convinced that they will, but hey, this is why we play the games. There's also hope because the Colts drafted a stud with the 14th pick, Tyler Warren. Great debut yesterday. He's going to be a featured guy in this offense all year. Max Toscano, the tight end guru, he's going to be joining the show on Wednesday or Thursday this week, and he's going to kind of break down everything he saw from Tyler Warren. But I'm going to talk about him here in about 4 minutes.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And, of course, you can also listen over on 1430 AM. Now, Tyler Warren, so good yesterday. Really, all of the weapons around Daniel Jones, I thought played really well. They got Tyler Warren established early, so early, and every time they threw him the football, I just felt good about it. You know, it's like, oh, they're throwing it to Warren. He's probably going to catch it. He's probably going to pick up some yards after he catches it because the dude's just an absolute specimen, and you can just hear the excitement in Shane Steichen's voice whenever he talks about Tyler Warren.
It was impressive. I thought the first play, the one we just talked about, hitting him down the boundary, but then that third down right there with about 6 minutes left, making a guy miss and then running a guy over, two guys over, whatever he did. Just the physicality he's an old school throwback freaking baller is what he is.
Old throwback, old school freaking baller. That's what Tyler Warren is. And he's going to be featured in the offense all year. They're going to find ways to get him the football because he's so good after the catch. Okay. And, they should, because like the dude catches it and he runs and he's big and he's physical. And that was the thing about him at Pitt State that really jumped out, right? Not only the ability to make contested catches, but also the ability to catch the football and then make plays after the catch. So I'm just really excited to see how they get him the ball going forward. Because they didn't only throw him the ball, they lined him up at fullback yesterday. And he picked up a first down after they handed him the football. Like they're going to move him around. And I do think that Shane Steichen is a creative guy when it comes to, the offensive play designs and those things. So I just think it's going to be really fun to watch Tyler Warren grow throughout the season and how they're able to kind of move him around as the season goes on. I'm very excited to have Max Toscano on later in the week to kind of talk about Warren, because if you watch the Raiders game yesterday, it's very, very interesting. A stat came out about Brock Bowers. He was only on the field for half of the Raiders snaps, and they threw the ball like 80% of the time when he was on the field for those 33 snaps. It's just a dead giveaway. I felt like Tyler Warren did a good job blocking, which is a really important thing because obviously you don't want to tip your hand as the Raiders are doing, where it's like, oh, Brock Bowers is on the field. They're probably going to throw the football. So just very excited to see Tyler Warren and how he's a part of the offense going forward. Now, the one thing that I didn't think that the Colts did a very good job of yesterday was the red zone offense. It wasn't good enough, and I get it. Like, we want to be happy-go-lucky because the Colts won their first season opener for the first time in 12 years, and Daniel Jones did all the very basic things that NFL quarterbacks should be able to do, and positivity. I feel like I've been very positive today. But this is like the warning for the Colts, where it's like, hey, got to fix this, because if you don't fix it, it will cost you games going forward. The Colts got into the red zone 5 times yesterday. Great number. Okay, if you get into the red zone 5 times, you're probably going to win whatever game you're playing. The issue is they only scored 2 touchdowns while in the red zone, and that's not good enough. The best teams in the NFL, the best offenses in the NFL, when they get in the red zone, they score touchdowns. And when you're playing a team like the Dolphins, who don't appear to be very good this year and looked pretty uninterested yesterday in the idea of playing football, you can get away with only going 2 for 5 in the red zone in terms of scoring touchdowns and having to settle for field goals the other 3 times. But when you're playing the Broncos, like the Colts are next week, and they're 3.5-point underdogs, 2.5 to other places, depending on where you look, like That cannot be the case. When you get in the red zone, you have to score touchdowns. And what's surprising about that is that should be an area where the Colts are good. The Colts are supposed to have a strong offensive line that they can run the ball behind. They couldn't do that yesterday in the red zone against the Dolphins. I went back, did all the math. The Colts averaged 3 yards per carry in the red zone yesterday. Okay? Like, that's not good enough. And that is excluding all 3 quarterback sneaks. Obviously, the 2 at the goal line, and then there was 1 on a 4th and 1 in the red zone. Because obviously, like, if you include those, like, that would bring the average down even more. So I excluded all of those. They didn't run the football very well in the red zone. And that is something that has to be fixed. That's something that I do think will be fixed, because this Colts offensive line, I thought that they'd really kind of succeed in terms of their ability to run block. Pass protection is where I thought that they would struggle. Seemed to be flipped. Yesterday, I thought that they pass protected really well, but they didn't run the ball as effectively as they could have. 15 of their 44 rushing yards in the red zone came from Ashton Dulin. That is an area that has to be figured out going forward, because against the bad teams, like, you can get away with it, like the Colts did yesterday. But against the better teams, and the Colts play a lot of good teams throughout the season, starting this next week against the Broncos, like 2 for 5 in the red zone against the Broncos isn't going to cut it. 2 for 5 in the red zone against the Rams, not going to cut it. 2 for 5 in the red zone against the Chargers, not going to cut it. Against the Titans, it absolutely will, because they themselves couldn't score touchdowns when they were in the red zone yesterday. But like that is something that has to be addressed, because that is something that will get you beat as the season goes on. Okay? So, yeah. Anyway, Colts, we'll see how they do going forward. People don't like my Daniel Jones stuff. That's okay. I'm just, the honesty broker here in Indy. And honesty, people don't always like. Okay? He played well yesterday. I didn't think he was great. I thought he just did the bare minimum. And the bare minimum was enough yesterday. Like, he didn't have to be awesome. Okay? They won 33-8. He didn't need to be great. Okay? They just dominate. 33-8 in their win over Miami. That is the best game we have seen the Colts play start to finish in the 3 years, I guess 2 years and 1 game that Shane Steichen has been here. Here he is after the game talking about how great of a team win this game was.
I'll start off just a great team win. Everybody in that locker room, every coach, every player, the preparation that goes into it to play the way we did, complimentary football on both sides of it. For 4 quarters was awesome. I thought Lou did a hell of a job calling the game on defense, putting those guys in position. I thought Jim Bob did a great job with the offense all week. Mason with the special teams, the takeaways, and then converting 17 points off that. That's playing complimentary football. And I'm excited for the city, this organization, to get this first win at home. With Mr. Irsay going into the Ring of Honor, it was only fitting to get that done today.
Shane Steichen right there talking about the Colts and their complete win yesterday over the Miami Dolphins. Once again, that is the most complete game we've seen from the Colts since Shane Steichen was hired. You could argue the Week 15 win over the Steelers in 2023. I would argue it was yesterday, because that Week 15 win in 2023 against the Steelers, Mitch Trubisky was playing quarterback. They should have won that game the way that they did, 30-13. Yesterday, the win came against a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL, in Tua, who just looked lost all day. The Colts offense scored on all 7 of their possessions yesterday, becoming the first team since 1977 to do that. The offense was humming. They did whatever they wanted all day. I've got many thoughts on Daniel Jones, but ultimately, I thought he played one of the 10 best games of his career yesterday. Here he is talking about the Colts going 7 for 7 in terms of scoring points on all of their drives.
I thought we were able to, we blended we had a lot, efficient in the pass game, some big plays here and there, and then we ran the ball at a really high level. I think that was huge. A number of times we got great field position thanks to turnovers from our defense, and the guys up front played awesome the whole time. Protecting, and then in the run game, creating space for our backs to run. So I think a lot of things when you're able to do that, it's a lot of things, and I think it starts up front.
Daniel Jones right there, sounding as boring as ever, which is a good thing. I want my quarterbacks to sound boring. Okay. So Daniel Jones talking about the success of the offense yesterday. I thought in the first half that they did a good job of running the football. Second half, that wasn't the same, but that's just because of score and Jonathan Taylor wasn't in and all those things. I think Shane Steichen had a lot to do with the offense. Okay. I've been saying he's a good head coach all off season, like me and three other people had that take. And I think that he showed you why yesterday. Colts pass catchers were running open all day. Like Daniel Jones wasn't asked to make a tough throw once. He wasn't. Every guy was just wide open. And that is part of the job of the head coach, especially when they're calling plays. It is their job to make the life of the quarterback easier. And I thought Shane Steichen did a really good job doing that for a guy in Daniel Jones who can be limited from time to time. I also think that we saw what Shane Steichen envisioned whenever he created his offense. Like if you were to ask Shane Steichen, what is the offense supposed to look like? And he would be like, just go back and watch us play the Dolphins week 1 of 2025. They threw to get ahead. They ran the ball across the finish line, and they came out throwing the football. Like Shane Steichen wants to throw the football. Their first 5 plays yesterday were pass plays. Okay, and the threat of Jonathan Taylor allows them to do the play action and all those things because he is the best player on this Colts offense. But when Shane Steichen created his offense, I think yesterday was what he wanted to see, right? Like they didn't run the ball great in the second half. Part of that's because Jonathan Taylor didn't really play much. He had 18 of the Colts, 40 rushing attempts on the day. The majority of them were in the first half. That was a good thing. We talk about how the Colts typically want to try to save Jonathan Taylor. Do it when you're up 33-0. That's what I think you should do. So that was a good thing that he didn't play as much yesterday. Colts also up enough that the Dolphins knew that the run that the run was coming, so that played a role in it as well in terms of the Colts not running the football as well in the second half. That's something that needs to be addressed though at some point, right? Because look, when you're up as big as the Colts were yesterday, not a big deal. Run the football, keep it moving. But next week, you're up by 3 with 3 minutes left. And like you've got to run the clock out. Like you've got to find a way to run the football when your opponent knows that you're running the football. So that's something that needs to be fixed. With that being said, I'm not going to sit here and freak out about it because they just won 33-8 and they snapped an 11-year week 1 losing streak or non-winning streak because they went 0-10-1. Anyway, so there was that. Was just really impressed with the offense and Shane Steichen yesterday. Very impressed with the defense as well. I thought that was the best part of the Colts yesterday. Like the blitzing, forcing 3 turnovers, having 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. The biggest thing, though, the biggest, most impressive, and most important thing for this Colts team going forward was how well they tackled. There were not very many broken tackles from the Dolphins yesterday, and they've got some squirmy and elusive guys in there, and guys like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane. So very impressed with the offense from Shane Steichen and his play calling. Also very impressed from the defense and their ability to just get their hands on a guy and get them to the ground because that was a major issue from them last year. The biggest thing, though, from yesterday, watching the game was just fun. It was fun. And look, like watching football should always be fun. Like you should look forward to sitting down on Sunday and watching the Colts play. Okay, that's what it should be. It should be an enjoyable experience, and it hasn't been like that for the last 2 years. Up and down play at quarterback, a very vanilla Gus Bradley defense that didn't tackle very well. We got none of that yesterday. Okay, the Colts had a quarterback who did everything that he was supposed to do, and they had a defense that did everything they were supposed to do, and then some. It was a genuinely enjoyable experience watching the Colts play. I thought that the Colts would be bad. I hope that I continue to be wrong. I hope that they win every game like that because I want to look forward to watching the Colts play on Sundays, and I haven't felt like that for the last 2 years. So hopefully they can keep it rolling. And in order for that to happen, Daniel Jones has to continue to play well. I thought he was good yesterday. I didn't think he was great. I'll tell you why in 4 minutes.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And, of course, 1430 a.m. if you're driving around, listening on the radio here in Indiana. Now, Daniel Jones yesterday. Don't go overboard. Okay? Daniel Jones was good. He was not great. He did everything that he was supposed to do. Okay? He did the bare minimum. That's it. And I say that, and I know, people are going to get their panties in a wad over it. That's fine. You can get your panties in a wad. But that's the reality of it. He hit open receivers. Okay? He didn't really have to make he didn't have to make any tough throws. Every throw he made, guys were wide open. He hit open receivers. He didn't turn the ball over. He had a couple of scrambles to keep the Colts on schedule. I didn't think he was great. I thought he was good. Okay, he looked like a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL, which is a big deal because the Colts haven't had that for the last 2 years. I thought Shane Steichen did a really good job of making the game easy for him, scheming guys open, just making life easy. Like playing quarterback's really easy when Tyler Warren is open over the middle of the field. Playing quarterback's really easy when Michael Pittman Jr. is wide open, running down the sideline. It's like Shane Steichen, I thought, did a great job helping Daniel Jones yesterday. And when Shane Steichen named Daniel Jones the starter, I said that Shane Steichen was betting on himself more than he was betting on Daniel Jones. And I think that we saw why I said that yesterday. The Colts receivers were consistently open. Like, that's a play calling thing. Okay? Like that is a Shane Steichen running his system kind of thing. Okay? So when you have that, like, you should go 22 of 29. And the issue is the Colts have had Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco and Gardner Minshew for the last 2 years. And so even when guys are open, when Shane Steichen's dialing it up, those guys miss throws that they should make. And to Daniel Jones' credit, he missed one throw yesterday. He had one egregious miss. It was to Michael Pittman Jr. when they were setting up a little screen early in the game. Snapped it. I'm assuming he just didn't have the laces, on the screens. You got to get it out quick. Probably didn't have a great grip. And the ball just slipped. Like that. That's going to happen. That's fine. Okay? Starting caliber quarterbacks make one bad throw every game. If you watched the Bills and the Ravens last night, there's a play where Lamar Jackson's in the pocket, Zay Flowers wide open. Lamar Jackson just leaves it short. It happens sometimes. Okay? So I thought Shane Steichen called a great game. No insane trick plays. Okay? He didn't have to do that because he's got a quarterback who can just make the easy things look easy. And that's what Shane Steichen did. He just made things easy for Daniel Jones to get the ball to these Colts receivers that are good. And to Daniel Jones' credit, when the play call didn't work, he didn't force anything that wasn't there. He did it once. Dolphin player dropped a pick when he jumped in front of Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, on a curl route. Find it very interesting. No one's talking about that. If Anthony Richardson was the starter, that would have been a very big topic of conversation when it happened. But hey, they won, so let's not dwell on that. To Daniel Jones' credit, outside of that one play, he did a good job of just finding his check down. Jonathan Taylor, three receptions for 27 yards, right? He had one that went for 16, caught it, made a guy miss, and then just kind of took off. Believe it or not, Jonathan Taylor, very hard to tackle in space. Okay, so Daniel Jones, really good job just managing the game, managing the offense, and making the easy throws. To our guy, Daniel Jones' credit, The only reason why all that stuff happened was because he's a NFL caliber starting quarterback. Okay? For the last 2 years, we've dealt with Anthony Richardson not making the throws that he should make. One egregious miss from Daniel Jones was it yesterday. Every other pass that should have been a completion was a completion. Okay? He did an excellent job of keeping the Colts on schedule. Okay? They were very rarely in like a 3rd and 8 situation. 3rd and 3 is so much easier for everybody on the offense. You can run the ball if you want to. You can throw it. Okay? You can go play action. Whereas like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, I mean, we saw it with the Colts defense. Like, I know that you're throwing the football. And if I know what you're doing defensively, it makes my life way easier. Okay? So Daniel Jones just did a good job of doing the things that starting caliber NFL quarterbacks do. He also did the thing that Anthony Richardson struggles to do. Listen to this interaction between Shane Steichen and this reporter where they're talking about a specific play with Daniel Jones.
It looked like Daniel changed that play.
He just changed the protection. He checked the protection on it. Yep. Yeah, he made a few of those all game. There's a lot of that stuff that goes on. We had another one on 4th down where he checked it and they brought 0 and he threw it to down. So he makes a lot of plays like that for us.
Shane Steichen right there talking about Daniel Jones and his ability to make checks and to change the protection and get them into the right play and how he makes plays like that all the time. Another aspect, another thing that starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL should be able to do. And that's all that Shane Steichen wants. That's all he's wanted ever since he got here. He's like, can you just give me a guy who can do all the basic things that a starting NFL quarterback can do? Can you give me a guy who could just give us a chance, by getting us into the right protection, by getting us into the right play? And it'd also be really nice if that guy could just hit wide receivers that are wide open. And Daniel Jones did all of those things yesterday. He kept them on schedule. Okay? Like, he didn't have to make any crazy plays because he made things easy on himself by getting to 3rd and 3. That way on 3rd and 8, he's not having to run around and throw the ball 12 yards down the field to keep the drive alive. He made things easy on himself. Here is Shane Steichen, Colts head coach, on the performance from Daniel Jones.
It was huge. Like I said, we want to stay on schedule and complete balls. I don't remember what his stats. 22 of 29 for 272 and a touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, he played good ball. We got to continue that every week. It's 1 week at a time. But that's the preparation he puts in. He was ready to roll, and guys went out there and made plays for him.
Shane Steichen right there talking about Daniel Jones and the big day that he had. And just great from him. He did miss one protection. Gerald Rio pointing out there was a play where an edge guy blasted him off the right edge, just like Anthony Richardson in the preseason. So, people leaving that. I left that out. Totally forgot that happened. Thank you, Gerald. So, it wasn't a perfect day from Jones, but he did most of the things. He did all of the things 99% of the time that starting caliber quarterbacks do. He kept the Colts on schedule. He chose the right protection, and he hit open wide receivers. All those things that I just listed, Anthony Richardson, over the course of 2 years, proved he could not do. Okay, and that's ultimately why he lost the job to Daniel Jones. Okay, Shane Steichen talked about it all offseason. He's like, I just want consistent. And that's what you're going to get from Daniel Jones. He's going to be consistent. And all the Colts fans are going crazy for all this, consistency. And I told you that this was going to happen. Okay, the Colts have had incompetent quarterback play for the last 2 years. And now the Colts fans, week 1, got to sit back and watch a competent guy. It's the best thing ever. Okay? And they're going crazy for it. Colts to the Super Bowl. Let's go. Led by Daniel Jones. Now, here's the part where I make Colts fans upset. And I make the very small number of Daniel Jones fans upset. I need to see more than just one good game against a bad Dolphins secondary to make me change my mind on Daniel Jones. Congratulations. Okay, you tore up a team that everyone kind of expects to be bad. You tore up a team whose best cornerback is an undrafted free agent, whose second best cornerback was a part of one of the worst secondaries in the NFL last year, and whose nickelback was a 6th-round pick. Okay? Like, sorry if that's not going to make me totally change my mind. All right? I need to see more. Okay? So far, at best, I still think that Daniel Jones, at his best, is a low-level starter. Okay? He needs to look like this for a month for me to change my mind. Okay? One good game after 5 bad years, excuse me, isn't going to make me like have some revelation. It's not going to happen. Okay? Because like what he did yesterday for the Colts, like that's not quarterbacking. Almost every quarterback in the NFL would have had success with the Colts yesterday because it was just easy. Okay, so I need to see the game look that easy for him for a month, or I need to see him have a day similar to what Baker Mayfield had yesterday. Okay, so yesterday, the Buccaneers, they beat the Falcons, and Baker Mayfield was just gutsy, man. So gutsy. I thought he played better than Daniel Jones. And if you just looked at the numbers, you'd say, Jonathan, that's insane because Daniel Jones was 22 of 29 for 272 yards and 3 total touchdowns, right? 2 rushing, 1 passing. And then you compare it to Baker Mayfield, who was 17 of 32. That's like Anthony Richardson completion percentage numbers right there. For 167 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was also the Buccaneers' leading rusher with 5 carries for 39 yards. So, with no run game, Tristan Wirfs, the Buccaneers' best offensive lineman out, and Chris Godwin, the Buccaneers' second best receiver out, it didn't matter. Baker Mayfield still found a way to win when things weren't perfect. That is what franchise quarterbacks do. That is what these guys who they pay $50 million a year do. They find solutions even when everything else around them is broken and fractured. Nothing around Daniel Jones yesterday was broken and fractured. He played within the structure of the offense. The offensive line gave him time. All of his receivers were available. They didn't drop any passes. Jonathan Taylor had a good day. I need to see a game from Daniel Jones like what Baker Mayfield had yesterday, where nothing is perfect and you just see Baker Mayfield figure out a way for them to win. No run game, second best receiver out, one of the best offensive tackles in the league, not playing. I need to see Daniel Jones find a way to win a game like that. Not when you're in the perfect situation where your receivers play well, your defense forces 3 turnovers, and you have all the time in the world to throw behind your offensive line. What is Daniel Jones going to look like when things around him aren't perfect? Because when they are, he's going to look like that. And if things around him are consistently perfect, and maybe they will be, because this Colts roster is good. As of right now, that's what we think. Okay? And so maybe things are going to be like that all year. Maybe he's going to have all the time in the world. And guys like Braden Smith, who historically get hurt pretty consistently, maybe none of that's going to happen this year. And everything around Daniel Jones will remain perfect. Probably not going to happen. What does he look like when, Braden Smith's out and Matt Gonsalves has a rough game at right guard and A.D. Mitchell plays and he drops 2 passes? What does he look like then? Okay? If you want me to change my mind on Daniel Jones, he's going to have to look good and find a way to win when his situation looks like that. Because just about any quarterback in the NFL could have had success with the Colts yesterday, given how well the supporting cast played. Speaking of the supporting cast, the defense was awesome. It just was. Daniel Jones was good yesterday, but the most impressive part of the Colts' performance was their defense. My thoughts on that in 4 minutes.
Central Indiana, it's the season of sweaters, spice, and cars that are nice. Monica Peck here from Hair Chevrolet. And this month, we've brewed up the perfect blend of savings and selection. You could drive home in a 2026 Chevy Equinox for just $249 per month, or save up to $6,000 based on the nicer, newer car you pick. So if your old ride's got you stewing and brewing, let's spice things up with a deal that's too hot to handle. Here at Hair Chevrolet, we're all about acceptance and affordability. We'll help you find a car you love with a monthly payment that fits your budget, one that won't shake your leaves this fall. So go ahead and spice up your commute, and maybe even save a latte in the process, up to $6,000 based on the price of the nicer, newer car you choose. But don't wait too long. This offer's only brewing till the end of the month. Together, let's drive at Hair Chevrolet, a dealer for the people, next to Walmart on Highway 37 in Noblesville. Call 877-666-1414 or see all the deals at hairchevy.com.
Credit requires bank approval. Negative equity may be refinanced. Vehicle purchase price determines actual discount. 2026 Chevy Equinox. MSRP $29,995. 36-month lease. 10,000 miles per year. $2,495 down. $249 a month. Plus tax, title, and documentary fee. Offer absolutely ends on September 30th, 2025.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X _ Jonathan Smith if you want to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And, of course, 14:30 a.m. Great place for you to listen as well. Now, last segment talked about Daniel Jones, how he played well, but, we should just slow our rolls a little bit. And I talked a little bit about Baker Mayfield in that segment as well, okay, and how I was more impressed by what Baker Mayfield did yesterday than what Daniel Jones did. And if you just look at the box score numbers, then you'd be like, Jonathan, that doesn't make any sense. 17 of 32, 167 yards, 3 touchdown passes for Baker compared to the 22 of 29 passing for 272 yards, 1 passing touchdown, and 2 rushing touchdowns for Daniel Jones. So it's like, how could you say that you were more impressed with Baker Mayfield? And a guy in the YouTube chat, McKinney1213, he asked a question, and it's a fair one. Did you just compare Daniel Jones blowing a team out who had 6 Pro Bowlers last year? I don't care about the Pro Bowl. Gardner Minshew was a Pro Bowler. Tyler Huntley has been a Pro Bowler. I don't really care about that. And scoring on every drive to a Baker Mayfield barely winning to a non-playoff team in 2024. Didn't realize that 2024 mattered. I thought we were in the year 2025. But, hey, the point that I was trying to make is a lot of quarterbacks would have had success with the Colts yesterday because everything was perfect. Everything was perfect, okay? The defense forced 3 turnovers. The receivers caught every pass thrown in their vicinity. The offensive line gave him more than enough time to throw the football. Like, there was no struggle. There was no moment where Daniel Jones had to make a play because, an offensive lineman missed a block, or, it's 3rd and 8 because Josh Downs just dropped a 5-yard out route, and now you have to make up for that mistake. Like, there was nothing like that for Daniel Jones yesterday. Okay, and playing quarterback in the NFL, like, we don't define the good quarterbacks in the NFL by what they do when everything around them is perfect. We don't. If we did, then we would think every quarterback's great. No, we define the best quarterbacks in the NFL by what they do when everything around them isn't perfect, because that's usually the reality of being in the NFL. And I'm asking a very fair question. What does Daniel Jones look like in week 8 when Jonathan Taylor isn't playing because he sprained his ankle and Braden Smith isn't playing because he got hurt, and the Colts defense isn't as good because Kenny Moore's hurt, and they had another injury at corner. By the way, speaking of corner, Xavier Howard, very impressive day yesterday, given the fact that he didn't play football at all last year and he was a late arrival to Colts camp. What does Daniel Jones look like when his situation isn't perfect? Okay, like the reason why Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL, even with all the crazy numbers Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen put up last year, Patrick Mahomes drags his team to the Super Bowl with multiple injuries on the offensive line. That's what the best quarterbacks in the NFL do. I'm glad that the Colts won. Do not get it twisted. Open the show by just talking about how much fun I had watching the Colts look like a competent football team yesterday. Okay, the offense scored on all 7 possessions. The defense got stops and they forced turnovers and they tackled so well, and they ran different coverages, and it was really cool. It was fun to watch. I am glad that the Colts won. Okay? I'm just saying, let's not get ahead of ourselves on this Daniel Jones stuff. Because this Sunday, they're going to play the Broncos, who have a significantly better defense than what the Miami Dolphins do. Okay? Patrick Surtain, is the reigning defensive player of the year. Okay? Like, he is. Like, that guy's a lockdown corner. Right? They're really good at linebacker with Dre Greenlaw. They brought over what's his name? Safety Hufanga from the 49ers, one of the better safeties in the NFL. They led the NFL in sacks last year, and a lot of those defensive linemen are back. Okay? I just want to know what Daniel Jones looks like when things aren't perfect and he has to make plays. What does he look like then? Because if he looks good in those moments, then I would be willing to buy into, yes, the Colts are going to be a good football team this year and maybe make the playoffs and maybe have a chance to win the division. But until I know what Daniel Jones looks like when things aren't perfect, I'm not going to do that. So it's really just, it's not me being negative. I'm just warning you. Like, what's he going to look like when things aren't great? Now, the Colts defense, I have really kind of changed my mind on. Not all the way, but I do think that Lou Anarumo in this defense is going to do an excellent job of keeping the Colts in games at a minimum. Okay? Everyone wants to talk about Jones today. I found the defense to be the most impressive part of their performance. Here is Shane Steichen talking about the defense and Lou Anarumo's debut.
Wire is what it was. He was putting those guys in position, multiple looks, hitting them at the right time. The pass rush was getting home. It was only fitting signing Cam Bynum, and he gets the first pick. And to do a celebration, and Latu gets a pick in there. I mean, it was awesome. I can't wait to watch the tape, but defense played awesome.
Defense played awesome. Colts head coach Shane Steichen right there talking about the very impressive 3-turnover day from this Colts defense. And it's amazing what happens when you do more than just sit and cover 3. It's amazing what happens. Okay? Colts blitzed. They disguised coverages. They mixed it up. They played zone. They played man-to-man. They brought blitzers up, and then they pulled them out. They just showed Tua so many different looks. And when people talk about quarterbacks in the NFL, there's a P word that gets thrown around about every single one of them. Well, how does he process? Does he process the game well? And I thought that Lou Anarumo just gave Tua more things to process yesterday. Is this guy coming? No, he's not. Okay, now I can look up and figure out who's where. And now I can, oh, wait, no, I can't make that throw because Latu dropped into coverage. And he just gave him extra things to think about. And you can see that in the numbers. Last year, Tua led the NFL in time to throw. So from the moment that the ball was snapped to the moment that the ball was out of his hand, he led the NFL. It was under 2.5 seconds. That is incredibly fast. Yesterday, that number was at 2.67 seconds. So a full 0.2 of a second longer. Okay? And so part of that is the Colts have better players on the back end of the defense. Javarius Ward, really good yesterday, led the Colts. He and Nick Cross led the Colts in tackles. Xavier Howard, mentioned him a couple minutes ago. I thought he was very impressive, all things considered. Hadn't played football in a year, 32 years old, if I remember correctly. So very impressive day from the secondary, but it starts with Lou Anarumo giving Tua multiple things to think about and to consider from snap to snap. And when that happens, you also force more turnovers. Okay, the 3 turnovers that the Colts forced were big. It's why the Colts won the game. If you force 3 turnovers, you should win every single time. The first one, we're going to call that a Gus Bradley defense turnover. He just made a bad throw. Tua, no pressure on him, stepped up in the pocket, and he just sailed it. It happens sometimes. Okay? Like that is a turnover that the Gus Bradley defense could have created. Okay? Tua just made a bad throw, Cam Bynum, right place, right time, picks it off, and then does a really weird dance in the end zone. The next 2 turnovers, though, these are Lou Anarumo turnovers. Second turnover, Tua fumbles it. Why did he fumble it? Because they, disguise this blitz, and Kenny Moore comes crashing from the nickel spot, strip sack, ball pops out, Colts jump on it. It's awesome. Okay? Like that is what blitzing and changing the coverage and all those things, like that's what it does for your defense. And it was just really nice seeing, the Colts do that. So, and then Xavier Howard was the one who jumped on the fumble. So there's that aspect of it, right? The third turnover, Latu. dropping him into coverage. When he picked it off, I was like, look, Latu. What? And, he starts the play, like, hand in the dirt, like he's coming. And he doesn't. He drops out. They drop Kwity Paye into coverage on that play as well. Just weird, funky. Tua doesn't see Latu. Latu makes a great play. And that was the third turnover that they forced. 2 of the 3 turnovers that the Colts created yesterday happened because Lou Anarumo dialed it up. He threw in a wrinkle. 2 things that Gus Bradley would never do. All right, and yesterday just kind of felt like proof that Gus Bradley needed to go. Okay, Lou Anarumo brought out a little bit more than the vanilla coverage that Gus Bradley likes to run, and the Colts have a dominant day on defense because of it. When you mix it up, when you run zone and man, and you blitz, and then you don't blitz, and then you act like you're going to blitz, and then you pull out, and then you act like you're going to blitz, and then you do blitz, and then you act like you're not going to blitz, and then you blitz, your chances of forcing turnovers go up. They forced 3 yesterday, and that played a huge role in the Colts win. Here's Shane Steichen talking about the importance of those 3 turnovers.
It was huge. I think getting those takeaways by our defense was big. And then, converting there, obviously we had some, I think we had to settle for some field goals there. But again, I thought Spence did a great job, kicking the field goals, the kickoff coverage team. We talked about that. But that was one of the keys going into this game was covering kicks. And I thought our guys really good job of that all game. Like I said, it was just a great team win. The atmosphere in there with the fans was electric. It was just awesome.
Shane Steichen right there talking about the 3 turnovers, and I really kind of felt like that set the tone for the rest of the game, giving the offense good field position for them to be able to go and score. Schrader hitting all 4 of his kicks yesterday. Like that's an important thing. The Browns lost to the Bengals yesterday because their kicker missed a point after attempt, and then he missed a 36-yard field goal that would have won them the game. So those 3 turnovers, I feel like, just kind of set up everything else. That got the momentum on their side. Crowd's going crazy. Just a very impressive and just fun defense to watch yesterday for the Colts. Hopefully they can do that a little bit more. I couldn't imagine, or would love to imagine, being a Patriots fan when Bill Belichick was there, and you know that you've got like a young quarterback coming up to Foxborough, and you just know that your team's going to win because that young quarterback is going to struggle against a Bill Belichick coach defense. I kind of feel that way. And I'm very intrigued to see how Sean Payton tries to help Bo Nix deal with this Colts defense that's going to give them multiple looks and blitz and pull guys and then, act like they're not going to blitz and then send guys. So I'm very intrigued by that matchup this next week against the Broncos. The biggest thing, though, with this defense, they did not miss tackles. They did not miss tackles. As soon as they got their hands on guys, the play was over. And that's impressive against the Dolphins team with guys like Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who are squirmy and elusive and quick and slippery. Like, players like that last year ate the Colts up, not yesterday. Okay, and part of that is the new players, right? Travaris Ward tackled really well yesterday. Joe Bacci tackled really well yesterday. Okay, Travaris Ward tackled really well yesterday. Nick Cross, he tackled well last year. He did a really good job yesterday on top of it. So the calls from Lou Anarumo, very impressive. The tackling from the Colts was as good as we've seen in the last 2 years. Very impressive week 1 win. Haven't changed my mind on them. Still not expecting a great season just because I think that this schedule is tough. But they played much better than what I thought they would, and I hope that I continue to be wrong. I hope that they keep winning games because they're just way more fun to talk about when they're good and when they're winning. Daniel Jones, keep being a game manager, and maybe, just maybe, the Colts will find themselves in the playoffs. That's going to do it here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you tuned in, YouTube, X, the Indy Sports Ticket app, no matter how you listened. I greatly, greatly appreciated it. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way next. He's going to have a ton on the Colts, and you're not going to want to miss it. You can listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app. I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 10 a.m.